Hi from me, Jared Epstein, and welcome to another episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. Erin Hers is a Joburg-based Jewish soccer player, and she tells us about balancing her love for Judaism and love for soccer. And Kelly Nathan teaches us how to make cheese blintzes. But first up, we learn about singer and performer Lee Noodleman Sussman and gain insight into why she incorporates Yiddish into her work of late.
Are Jews of Eastern Europe, and they spoke this language, which is a mishmash of a whole lot of different languages, and it's called Yiddish. And there are a whole lot of different dialects, and Litvak Jews, even Jews from Lithuania versus Jews from Poland, have a different way of pronouncing things. So, and I'd say it's kitchen tal. It's very similar to Afrikaans. It's very colorful, and it was formed in the kitchen. So I come from a very secular family in terms of my parents, but every Friday night we'd go to my gran for supper. And then I went to King David and I got more involved, I suppose, in what it means to be Jewish and understood what it means to be Jewish. I was learning prayers and Hebrew. At about 16, I rebelled completely after going on Ulpan. I went to Israel and I saw that you can be a secular Jew and you can have a very strong Jewish identity without having this very deep relationship with God, which just didn't sit well with me. I went to university, forgot completely about my Jewishness. And then I met my husband, and he is very involved in Jewish communal life. And I saw tremendous beauty and richness through Jewish communal life. And I started getting more involved myself. And I'd call myself now a cultural Jew. I perform things that always connect to my Jewish identity. And most projects that I do connect to my Jewishness.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Project in the Anstey's building, which is this incredible heritage building in the inner city. I was teaching kids ballet. I was teaching kids that were part of a music school. And we were getting artists to work across the disciplines, and somehow I started with music as well. My friend Jeff Davis and I started a homeless choir actually at Temple Israel, and we started teaching homeless people Jewish songs. And through that I got into Jewish music. And the rabbi of the shul where I sing said to me, "Why don't you start singing Yiddish songs? There seems to be this revival in America, in Canada, all over the world." And I said, okay. And my singing teacher and I pulled out a few songs and I started learning them. And I remember going to a master class with Aviva Pelham, who's incredible. I'm very lucky to have her in my life. And I said to her, "Aviva, I can't connect to these songs at all. The language feels so foreign." And she said, "You're driving all the time. Just put the music next to you. And when you stop at a robot or when you're waiting to pick up kids from school, just sing them over and over again." And the more that I sang them, the more that I realized these songs and these stories are part of my DNA as a Litvak Jew. And even the language. Over time, over the last 5 years that I've been singing the songs, I still don't speak it, but when I sing it, I can connect to it. Every Yiddish joke or Yiddish phrase, it's here in the songs.
Children leaving their parents to seek a better life for themselves is something that 100 years later we sadly still experience, particularly here in South Africa. And this theme continues in the next song, Belts.
Really surprised when I perform for people, and there was like a few smatterings of non-Jewish people at my performances. I'm always really surprised how non-Jewish people connect to the songs, because they have these universal ideas about love and about resilience, and I feel very privileged when I'm able to share them with audiences. And I remember Philip Todris, who's a Yiddishist based in Cape Town, saying to me, every time you sing a Yiddish song, you bring a Jewish soul back to life. It has a weight to it. It's kind of, it puts pressure on me sometimes, but I think it's a beautiful idea. And I do feel it gives what I'm doing importance and weightiness. Every time I sing a Yiddish song, I have that in the back of my mind. And I feel like my ancestors holding me up and supporting me and saying, you've got this. What you're doing is, you're telling our story, you're telling our narrative.
Erin Hers is a young Jewish female soccer player based in Johannesburg who recently played for the Banyana Banyana Council of Southern Africa Football Association's Cup. She spoke to us about how she balances the important things in life, like Judaism and, of course, football.
My upbringing within Judaism is strongly rooted in my mother's mother, my grandmother's love for the Jewish religion and her upbringing. And at the same time, she's also been a very strong supporter of me playing football. She's come to watch me. She's watched me on TV, and shame she passed away last year, but she would be klaibing nachas, which is a Jewish phrase for beaming with joy at the strides that I've made within football, but the Jewish identity that I've managed to maintain within it. So I didn't go to a Jewish day school. I went to Redham House. It was close to home, very convenient, but we did make sure that we kept up with Jewish holidays. We enjoyed the tradition of them, and we enjoyed that they brought the family around. So I did stay connected to my Jewish community despite not necessarily growing up within it. I still found a way. I had friends in the Jewish community, I played sports in the Jewish community, and yeah, now I coach within the Jewish community at King David School. So I still find myself connected despite maybe not necessarily being the most Jewishly raised person. I went to the Maccabi Games for the first time when I was 16. I went to play soccer, and it was one of the highlights of my life. Going to Israel to represent South Africa within a very Jewish space was thrilling. It was amazing. Going to the Kotel, the Western Wall. I've never felt so connected to being Jewish. It brought me close to Jewish people, it brought me close to the Jewish community, it brought me close to Jewish history, culture. Everything was almost 100% Jewish. And as I say, based on my upbringing, not everything was 100% Jewish. So for those 3 weeks, I felt the most Jewish I've ever felt. And it was just so lovely to be around people that believed wholeheartedly and people that practiced wholeheartedly. It wasn't something I'd experienced often. So to learn about the Jewish religion within Israel was incredible. Being the only Jewish person within such a sports community is very interesting, to say the least. I get tons of questions. Most of the questions originate from people not knowing anything about Judaism. So it's interesting to be the representative, I suppose, for Jewish people. Taking off a time for Jewish holidays can be straining for the coaches. They're not always fond of it, and a lot of them are quite demanding. There's a fast. I haven't eaten all day. I'm not going to see you later. So, yeah, coaches aren't always excited, but it's a couple of weeks and it passes and we move on. But that's also where the fun comes in, that Jewish holidays are quite unique in the requirements or the conditions, so sharing that with people is fun. Soccer definitely brings people together, and that sounds like a cliche, but being on a team, and a team is not just players, a team involves staff, it involves management, it involves parents that lift, it involves the kit manager, it involves the person at the sports ground that's responsible for unlocking. We all come together and we all do this thing that we have a common goal, and we share that love for the game that brings us there to do that thing. And it definitely brings about respect. There's a lot of mutual respect in football. We all know what it takes to get to where we've been and to work even what we need to do to get even better. And we push each other a lot, and it definitely creates just positive, progressive energy that makes it so much fun to be around and continue. That's why I persisted for so long.
Off the field, Erin is a very nice person. She's loving, she's caring. But on the field, she's controlling, she is, but it helps the team, it helps me, it's made me a better player.
I think she's going far, she's still young, and she's very disciplined. She likes training and she listens, she is a good listener, and yeah, I think she'll go far.
In terms of accolades through football, I've achieved quite a few at a club level. For my club JBW, I won the Player of the Year in 2015. I also won Defending Player of the Year in 2019. We won the Sasol League National Champs in 2019, then we went on to the Hollywood Bet Super League. So those are club and collective and individual accolades that I've achieved. I recently got called up to the national team to play for Banyana Banyana at the COSAFA Women's Championships. There is a chance I'm the first Jewish woman to play for Banyana Banyana. I can't guarantee it. I'm still trying to do my research to find the answer, but that would be a nice thing to have on my CV. So one battle I experienced within the dual identity of being Jewish and being a footballer was practicing the Jewish religion while being a footballer, considering we play matches on a Saturday and sometimes we'll have a pre-match training on a Friday night. So something like keeping Shabbos, which is respecting the Sabbath, which the Jewish religion does from a Friday night to a Saturday night, would impact my chances to play matches. And it was an interesting mental battle post-Maccabi when I wanted to commit myself to Judaism, because I knew I wanted to have that level of faith and belief, but the practices were going to clash with football. So I did have to make a decision to live out my potential in football and almost, I don't want to say choose football, but lead in the direction of football, but I still made the decision to choose other Jewish practices that worked for me, that served me, that allowed me to be both Jewish and a soccer player. Jewish holidays became more of a priority because they were days that I could be excused from football. As much as it was a challenge, it was interesting to find a way to balance them, balance football and Judaism, and allow myself to be both at once.
Johannesburg-based Kelly Nathan loves making food, and even more so, she loves sharing that food with others. Today, she teaches us how to make good old traditional cheese blintzes.
Hi, I'm Kelly Nathan and we are in Joburg, and today I'm so excited to show you how to make cheese blintzes. For blintzes, you need two parts to the recipe. The first part are the crepes, and the second part is the filling. So for the crepes, you'll need 1.5 cups of flour, 3 eggs, a pinch of salt, 2 cups of cold water, and half a teaspoon of baking powder. And for the filling, you'll need 500 grams of medium-fat cream cheese, 1 egg, a tablespoon of sugar, a cup of cream, and a dash of cinnamon. Right, so to make the batter, you're going to take your flour and you put it into the bowl. Now you need a pinch of salt, half a teaspoon of baking powder. Right, now we're moving on to the wet ingredients. You need 3 eggs. So what is a cheese blitz? This is one of the most quintessential Jewish desserts, and today we are doing a cheese blitz, which is a rolled crepe filled with a cheese filling, but in fact it can be filled with either tuna or meat as well, and can be served as a savory dish. And the final ingredient, 2 cups of cold water. Now it's time to mix. You could either mix with a whisk or be like me and use a handheld mixer. You just need to whisk it until it's smooth. Now you leave the batter to rest for an hour. Now that I've told you what a cheese blitz is, you might want to know where it comes from. Well, a cheese blitz actually has its origins in Jewish Ashkenazi desserts. And what is an Ashkenazi? Well, these are Jews that were originally from Eastern Europe. Right, now that the batter's made, we're going to move on to the filling. What you need is 500 grams of medium-fat cream cheese. Don't use the normal cottage cheese, don't use low-fat. If you're going to be eating a dessert, do it properly and really have a more rich filling. So I've got the cream cheese at room temperature. It makes for a much easier mix. You also need a tablespoon of sugar. You need 1 egg. And you need a dash of cinnamon. And now we're going to put some elbow grease into it and mix it to a smooth consistency. You can either do this with a whisk or with a spatula. I like a spatula because I can really get those lumps out of there. And easy as that, your filling is made. Now we're moving on to making the crepes. Now that the batter's been resting for an hour, it's time to make the blintzes. So there are 2 ways to make blintzes. The first way, which I love, is with my trusty crepe maker that I took from my granny. This is very, very retro. And the other way is you can actually use a crepe pan and do it on the stovetop. Both are good, and the third option actually is you can buy them ready-made at the shop. What I love about blintzes is that you can make them ahead and freeze them. But remember, when you're going to do that, you need to place baking paper between the blintzes so that they don't stick. Don't make the mistake like I did and use wax wrap. It sticks to everything. Use your normal baking paper and you won't have pancakes or blintzes that stick to each other. In order to make the blintzes, you need to pour the batter into a relatively flat plate. I'm using the very retro plate that my crepe maker came with. You could also use a normal size meat plate. So you just pour the batter. So if you are using this retro crepe maker, you need to preheat it until it is hot. Once it's ready, you're then going to start making your crepes. And how you do it is you gently lower the crepe maker into the batter until it forms on the surface. You take your spatula within a second or 2 and start to release the crepe as it starts to cook. You'll see the sides start to lift, and then you just gently release it. So in Judaism, we often show our love through food. And I may not have a specific memory to do with cheese blintzes, but I grew up in a family that revolved around cooking and showing our love through food. In fact, my mom and my gran taught Jewish cooking and in fact any cooking. And the recipe that I'm using today is in fact their recipe that they use to teach people how to make cheese blintzes. Now that we've made the crepes and we've made the filling, it's time to roll. So what you're going to do is you're going to take a crepe and lay it on the surface. And now you take the filling. For each crepe, you need a tablespoon of filling into the middle of the crepe. And now you're going to fold it up. You fold in the front along each side, and then you roll it. And then you place it in the dish, and then you move on to the next one. So there are two ways to cook filled crepes, or filled blintzes. The first way is my family's tradition, where you put it into a greased baking dish, and you bake it until it's hot and bubbling. But a second way to cook it is to fry it in some butter until it's hot and crispy, and you serve it with cinnamon and sugar. Okay, so a fun fact is that the word blintz actually means pancake in Yiddish. Whether there's a difference between pancake and blintz, I have no idea. All I know is that I love me a good blintz. So earlier I told you that the word blintz is a Yiddish word meaning pancake, but the origin of the word blintz is actually from a Slavic word, liniet. Now that we've finished rolling the blintzes, this is the fun part. We're going to pour a cup of cream over them, sprinkle them with cinnamon and sugar, and whack them in a preheated oven at 160 for 15 minutes. Now that your blintzes are enrobed in their beautiful blanket of cream, and remember, don't be schnorrer with the cream. Schnorrer means stingy. This is food of love, and you want to feel absolutely hugged in the love that you've put into this dish. So now we're going to take the blintzes and we're going to whack them in a preheated oven at 160 for 15 minutes. Oh, my N went. Is love on a plate. I really hope I did my mom and gran's recipe justice. Thank you for letting me into your home, and I hope you enjoy eating it as much as I enjoyed making it with you.
That brings us to the end of this week's episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. As always, we'd love to hear from you, so please send us a Facebook message at Spirit Sister Productions. From me, Jared Epstein, and the Simcha team, remember these words from the Jewish ex-Bafana Bafana captain, Dean Furman.
Football has the power to unite a nation. Just look at the impact of the 2010 FIFA World Cup. I've been lucky enough to share a dressing room with many players, all from different backgrounds, and I've made friends for life. It's amazing what you can do when we all want to achieve the same goal and we respect each other's backgrounds and differences.